Hello, welcome back to Rapid Regeneration. I'm David Escamilla. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical professional. I'm not making any medical claims or claims about diseases. This is brought to you by rapidregeneration.com. And basically, we're in the nitty-gritty now. Basically, the mission of this program is to help you gain the knowledge that you need to basically solve your health problems and go to the next level. That's what I did for myself. I got really sick. I was in hell for 4 years, had horrible symptoms. Every day I woke up, I didn't have the will to live, and I stayed curious. I stayed open-minded. Even though I had almost lost complete hope, I finally discovered the doorway to the secrets of the ages and the keys to unlock health, energy, youthfulness. Now I'm 33 years old, and people generally think I'm a lot younger. I think because of how much energy I have. I think it also helps your skin. It just helps with your posture, with your skeletal system, with everything. I mean, this stuff is amazing. So, a lot of these previous episodes were very, had a lot of stuff you could get right into and actions you could put into place. That's also going to be true on the other side of this kind of several episodes. There's so many other tips and tricks and strategies that you can use immediately to improve your wellness. But basically, it's important to increase your awareness of what's going on inside the sausage factory. We want a sausage to come out of the other side. That's exactly how you want it, which the product is you being in good health, your health problems being behind you, you're having plenty of energy, you feel good, you look good. That's the product that we want. But, I'm telling you to, unless this is too boring, then just skip these episodes. But you should increase your level of understanding about the logic of why stuff works. And so this episode is about understanding the why behind the why. So we've talked about the body's lymphatic system, how the body detoxes out. We've talked about the body chemistry, maintaining body chemistry. We've talked about pollutants and things that if you put in your body, it's gonna make your body toxic. And basically, it's important to understand. We're gonna now look at what does food do? What do different foods do when you put them in your body? Exactly, so that you can know next time you're at a party, next time you're at the store, at a restaurant, you can know exactly what to do. I can't tell you what to do in every situation, but I can tell you what I've learned about the nature of different foods, the biology of foods, the molecular structure of foods, and how they react with our bodies. So, but before we do that, what kind of body are we talking about that you're putting the food into? Because biology is different with different species and different animals. So it's important to understand the machine that you have to work with. And then we're going to look at what are the different fuels and additives and inputs that you can put in the machine. But before we do that, what is this machine that we're giving food to constantly and supplements? And so basically, the age-old question is, what foods should humans be eating? So this is an anthropological question. So we're not going to know the exact answer, but there is some logic and some evidence. There's some differences between different types of species. There's some historical evidence. So, this is going to be a little bit nuanced. And, use your own intuition as well, because we don't have a time machine. We can't go back in time and see exactly what was going on. But this is a very important question. A lot of different groups have been trying to answer this question. Just look at the Paleo movement. The Paleo movement, you have basically a group of people, and they're saying you should eat cooked meat, cooked vegetables, nuts and seeds, and raw fruits and vegetables. Okay, they're on the same wavelength in a way, because they're basically saying we should eat a natural way. We should eat how our ancestors ate, not the way that we've invented these modern food products. And so they're saying, yeah, we weren't making processed foods. We weren't farming grains and making them into breads and those types of products. So what were ancient humans eating, and what should we eat? So, and what's the human biology designed to eat? So let's just answer that question. So now, I want to acknowledge evidence. I know this program talks a lot about the power of raw foods, fruits, and of course vegetables and nuts. I know we've also talked about how meat, could be acidic to some degree and cause excess, acids to be formed in the body and other health issues. But there is certainly evidence, no question, that ancient humans, based on archaeological findings, were fashioning tools to hunt down animals and to skin them and to eat them. So there is no question that humans were eating animals. Now, the humans are kind of a fascinating species. Basically, you also have, the migration of humans. Most anthropologists agree that humans originated in Africa, in a sort of a tropical setting. And then at some point, some crazy humans decided to go north to Europe and go into areas where it was frankly cold and uninviting. And so those humans, there's going to be less fresh fruits around and fresh vegetables and long winters. And so you might conclude that these humans then turn to more animals and animal protein, to get them through the winter. You also have ancient cultures that made these sort of alcohol products like mead, and it would basically preserve. These are very complex sugars. It's not what you would call a health drink, but it could last through the winter time, and they could drink this alcohol and it would give them nutrition. And so, this also explains different ethnicities. You have, based on different ethnicities, they have different abilities to process different foods differently. For example, more fair-skinned ethnicities and Europeans, etc., they process milk and alcohol more quickly. And this may have to do with kind of that winter living and maybe the diets that were being eaten. And so there's no question that whereas, in tropical Africa, it may have been easier to just eat fresh plants and fruits and vegetables and nuts. I'm speculating, but if that was me, that's what I would have been eating. So, there's no question that humans, they wasted little time, and they started exploring, and they started experimenting with consuming different foods. Okay, so we're going to acknowledge that, yes, humans did eat meat, but what are humans really designed to eat? What are we suited to eat in terms of our nature? Because, there are two different questions. You could have a cat, which is a carnivore basically. You could feed it a plant-based diet. It would still survive. You have a cow, that's basically an herbivore. You could feed it meat or some kind of meat food product. And it's been done, by the way, and the cow would still survive to some degree. So basically, what is it likely that humans were eating? So dairy, it seems not super likely. It's very labor intensive. You'd have to have raising of the livestock. You'd have to have fences. or technology and tools. So it's kind of, maybe we developed to do that, but it's kind of outside of our original nature and our primitive kind of origins. And milk, I mean, it's, besides that, it's not really a natural food. But we're talking about the practicality of what we actually ate. We know that we can't really digest lactose after the age of 3, because in the first 3 years, about the first 3 years of ages, we have enzymes that can break down lactose. So if we drink milk after the age of 3, the milk gets digested basically by fermenting and rotting basically in the body. So, okay, what about grains and beans? So according to anthropologists, humans only started farming about 8 to 10,000 years ago. So you would have had a long, long time before that where we may have been farming, but there's no real evidence that we were cultivating grains and beans. Grains and beans, when consumed raw, these foods are not appetizing, they're not nutritious, they're not really easily eaten or digested. So it seems like we would not be eating grains and beans. It does seem very beyond obvious that we were eating fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, nuts, vegetation, herbs. I mean, that's one's just beyond obvious. Cooked vegetables, it's plausible. It depends on the point of development. Did a civilization have fire? That takes technology, to produce fire. So we're natural humans in their natural habitat setting, really eating cooked vegetables. It's possible that different groups developed to the point where they had fire. They said, hey, we're going to get kind of chefy and start to prepare food in different ways, and they cook their vegetables. That is possible. In terms of meat, yes, there is evidence that ancient humans did hunt it and eat it. Now, it would have taken, again, tools, a lot of effort, and you have to skin the animal, you have to prepare it, gut it. You have to have tools for that. We don't have those tools on our bodies to do that, like other animals do. And then how would we have eaten it? Raw meat. It's not very appetizing. Now, I guess if humans were desperate and trying to survive, they could have eaten it. Or groups may have developed to the point where they had fire. But we're talking about going back to the origins of humankind, at which point, that may have been more difficult to have fire. So they could have certainly been doing this also. And again, is it easier to just eat? If you're in the tropics, you have just these fruit trees everywhere and vegetation and nuts. And is it easier to just go gather food? Or do you want to spend a few hours hunting something down and totally exhausting yourself? Maybe you get assaulted by an animal. Maybe something crazy happens to you, and then you gotta gut that carcass, and you gotta get blood all over the place, and so. But it's definitely went down at some points. Also, raw fish and eggs may have been consumed. That's definitely plausible. Even today, that's a delicacy. And then also, raw grubs and other insects may have been eaten. So that's the practicality of what may have actually been eaten. Humans were very rebellious. We'll do whatever we want, and we don't like to be told, hey, you have to do this a certain way. So I'm sure that we did do some of those things, although that just talks about the practicality of different foods being eaten. Less practical, certainly, to hunt meat and cook it, although I'm sure it happened. Very convenient to eat kind of raw, fresh foods. But then again, if you're in Sweden, then there's not going to be that much that food for most of the year. So that goes to the practicality. What about the design of the machine that we have? What about the biology of humans versus other animals? So there's basically 4 groups of animals, and I learned about this in my formal training, but it is true. I did verify this information. Basically, and I am basically a trained regenerative detoxification specialist from the International School of Regenerative Detoxification. But basically, you have the big cats. We can call those like your carnivores. Let's say you have your birds, dogs, and wild hogs. These are kind of your omnivores. You have your grazers, like your deer, cattle, sheep, horses. These are like your herbivores. And then you have a 4th group, which is like your primates and humans. And they're in like the question mark category. So basically you have your big cats. Basically, if you look at their mouth, if you look at their tongue, the shape of their teeth, they're designed to basically tear apart flesh. Their stomach is very simple. It emits strong gastric juices, and they have a giant liver with a bunch of different chambers, a lot of heavy flow of bile. It's about 50% bigger than a human liver, because they're eating a lot of protein. They need a lot of bile coming from that liver. They have a very short intestinal tract, and it doesn't have the absorption that humans have in their intestinal tract. So it's smooth, doesn't have as much absorption capacity for nutrients. It's only about 3 times the length of their spine, their GI tract. Okay, then you have birds, dogs, and wild hogs. Basically, they have, again, their jaws, the way that their teeth are shaped. And then basically, of course, birds have beaks. Stomachs have a moderate amount of gastric acids. Liver is also complex, larger than a human liver. Their GI tract is 10 times the length of their spine, a little bit shorter than humans, and it can absorb nutrients somewhat, more than cats, not as much as humans. Okay, then you have like your herbivores, your deer and your cattle and everything. Basically, by the way, the cats, I forgot to mention, but they eat meat, basically, and they eat some grass and herbs. The dogs and hogs and birds, they eat a diverse diet. They eat meat, fruit, vegetables, other miscellaneous foods. Your herbivores basically eat vegetables and herbs and grass. They have multi-directional jaws. They have a very differently shaped teeth. All these groups have differently shaped teeth in each other. They have an extremely complex stomach and only weak stomach acids. They have 4 areas or more in their stomachs. And the liver is only slightly larger than humans. And they have a very, very long GI tract. It's about 30 times the length of their spine. And their small intestines basically has these absorbing rings in it, so maximum absorption. Okay, last group is your primates. That's going to be your gorillas, your chimpanzees, your apes, your monkeys, and humans. Now, these 2 groups have a lot of similarities in how their bodies work. In fact, the humans are about 98% matching a chimpanzee DNA. So let's look at what the primates eat. It's not really fair to look at what the humans are eating, because we're eating outside of our nature. Humans are eating Oreos and Doritos and hot dogs from the 7-Eleven. But if you look at primates, basically, primates are eating fruits, vegetables, nuts and seeds, and occasionally some other things like bugs. The vast majority of primate species, they don't eat animal meat. There are a few groups of primate species that will eat things like bird eggs, baby birds raw, and basically small reptiles, the meat of small reptiles. and other small animals. Although even these groups, their diet is still consisting mostly of plants. So again, you have the mouth of a primate. It's a complex system of teeth, and basically a stomach that's oblong, a liver that's on the smaller side, and then a GI tract that's 12 times the length of the spine. So longer than the longer than the omnivores, but not as long as the herbivores. The GI tract is ringed. It allows for maximum absorption. It's also worth noting that, we have these hands with these fingers that are especially suited for gathering food, and opening up food and stuff like that. And so basically, after I learned this information, it did become rather obvious that humans seem to be biologically suited for, and primates, let's just say primates as well, for eating mostly, your fruits, vegetables, your nuts, and your seeds. Now, obviously, we can eat other things too, but we're not really predators. In terms of we don't have the weapons, the claws, the fangs, the physical prowess, and we're certainly not herbivores. We lack the stomachs, the long GI tracts, the grinding the teeth, and so it seems like that's the case. It doesn't mean that we have to eat just raw plants. It's more, this is just more a question of how is the machine designed. That seems to me, I can get with that logic, that's how our machine is designed. We're basically, this is similar to the argument that, it would seem like a tropical species. We don't have fur, we're like a warm weather species. But a human can still migrate up to Sweden and live there. But he's living, outside of his nature, or her, and same thing is if the human decides that I'm going to sustain myself on meat, then basically the human can survive. So this is a different question of basically we know that the human body is very robust. It can put up with a lot of things, even abuse, and still live on. So this is not a segment about what you should eat, that you should never eat meat, or anything like that. It's basically just asking, what is the machine designed to do? What kind of fuel is it designed to process? And you could still give it other types of fuel, and guess what? It's still going to run. But there are two different questions. A human can live in a cold environment. A human can live on eating animal protein, but what is the human really suited for naturally? You can have a family dog, and you can give it Hot Pockets, bread, cookies, pizza, leftover scraps from the dinner table, and this dog might live for many years. But this canine is eating against its own nature. Even dog foods. Most dog foods are full of junk and toxins, unfortunately. And by the way, if you need a good dog food, then just go to rapidregeneration.com/dog food for all you guys with these poor dogs that just need something better to eat. That's a little more natural. So basically the humans are the same way. We can put up with a lot that's outside of our nature. We can play around, we can rebel, we can go off the plantation, and we can do whatever we want, and we're still robust, and we're still gonna basically power through it, So, but it is important to understand what's our body really designed to do. I hope this was some helpful context. Next, we're gonna basically look at, what happens to carbs? Basically, how does the process work anyways when you put food in the body? And then what's the difference between carbs, proteins, and fats. Excuse me. Oh, Lord. But basically, before you understand what is the nature of food, you have to understand that an apple is going to digest differently if a primate eats it versus if a herbivore eats it versus if a dog eats it versus if a cat eats it. A piece of meat is going to be digested differently by a cat, by a dog, by an herbivore, or by a primate. In a nut or a seed or grains or so before you look at what are these different foods, just understand the machine that you've been given and your own nature, and go back to your genetic intelligence of your ancestors from so many countless millennia, and what were they doing, and you still have these same genes from our origins here on planet Earth. So that's it for now. Please, you can always check out rapidregeneration.com. There's like a zillion resources there for you. And again, if this is too boring, please skip ahead to the segments ahead where it's more practical. But this knowledge is essential. This is what they never taught you in school. And how the world works, how stuff works, how food works. And if you can get this, if you can really get this, then you're going to know what to do and what decisions to make in different situations. So keep going. Stay committed to learning what you need to get yourself healthy and well. And I'm so honored to be helping you. And make sure to subscribe to if you're listening to this on a podcast or the channel, subscribe so that you'll see when the new episodes come out. And if you really want to make me happy, then please, if you could give it a review. Just if you like it, give it 5 stars, or to follow me on your favorite social media platform at Rapid Regeneration, where I'm also putting out different things that are going on in my day. So I'll see you on the next segment, and bye for now.
For more information, please follow at Rapid Regeneration or visit rapidregeneration.com.